If you've been sober for a bit, you know that burnout feeling that we're talking about. It's that feeling of, I don't want to have to think about alcohol and sobriety all the time. I don't want to have to feel like every ounce of energy is going towards this. I just want to live my life. In case no one has told you, it's totally normal to feel that way. We're here with Amber, Michael, and Collin today to talk about what to do when you get to that burnout point, and even better, how to avoid it. It's all about finding a balance between doing the work of recovery and giving yourself space to enjoy that freedom that you've worked so hard to achieve.
Welcome to Through the Glass Recovery Podcast, where we believe that connection is the opposite of addiction, vulnerability is the antidote to shame, and that recovery isn't just rewarding, but it's also a lot of fun. We're your hosts, Steve and Julie. Listen as we get together with friends to shed light on the hard things, talk about the other side of addiction, and how we create a life so full, there's no space left for alcohol.
Before we get into this episode, we want to invite you to join us on Monday evenings for our Sober Happy Hour, an online support group on Zoom. We get together to talk about what growth and forward momentum look like in our lives and just to connect with other like-minded people. If you've been looking for a community that isn't AA but still offers meaningful connection, come hang out. You can get all the information on our website at throughtheglassrecovery.com. Hello, everybody. Welcome to yet another episode of Through the Glass Recovery Podcast. So happy to have you hanging out with us today. We have got some great new guests for you. I'm so excited just to get some fresh perspective. And also, we've got Steve's roommate, Amber, joining us again, and she's become kind of a regular these days. And so it's just going to be great. I'm really excited for this one. As always, we're going to do introductions. I'm going to put Amber on the spot and let her go first because she has done this a time or two. Just a little bit about yourself.
Well, I am Amber. I am living currently in Grand Junction, Colorado, of 6 months now. I packed up as much as I possibly could and left my entire life behind out in Massachusetts on the East Coast and traveled out here 6 months ago with Jack, my cat. So yeah, I'm so happy to be here. I'm always glad to like, hey, we have a spot open. I'm like, cool. Yeah, let's have a conversation. So it's definitely great to be here on a Wednesday. I just celebrated 3 years sober in Christmas Eve was 3 years for me. So, and actually been now just about actually a little over a year cannabis free as well. Yeah. So pretty
So cool.
cool stuff. Yeah, great to be here.
Yeah, really good to have you. Thank you so much for joining us. And then I'm going to ask Mike to go next. Do you want to introduce yourself for us?
Absolutely. First, I just want to say thank you to Julie and Steve for inviting me on here. My name is Mike Conklin, and I have no problem saying that I am an alcoholic, and I prefer to say I am a sober alcoholic today, and I have been sober since February 12th, 2008. And for me, that is an absolute, I mean, it's a mind fuck for me. Like I never imagined that I would get sober and stay sober this long, but what I have found is that the more I engage in like the process of recovery, the more I made like recovery like a part of my life, the more blessings that came to me in my life. I'm currently living in Las Vegas. I've been out there since July of 2023. I'm back in New York where I'm originally from. Came back to New York. I have a granddaughter here now. So that's very exciting. I have most of my family, like my kids and stuff are here in New York. And then I have like another family, in Las Vegas now that I've been out there for about 2 years with. So I've been active in the recovery space online for about the last 3 to 4 years. I've done lots of coaching. I have like a private group, very, very active on Instagram. And other than that, I absolutely love recovery.
Awesome. I think this is going to be a great topic for you. And yeah, I'm just really excited to get to hang out with you and get to know you a little bit. So thank you so much for being here. And last but not least, we've got Colin.
What's up, guys? Hi, my name's Collin. I'm an alcoholic. Like Mike, I got no problem saying that. There was a while there where I did. Hard thing to admit in the very beginning, but that's part of the that's the first step. I'm a big believer of AA, but yeah, I'm out here in Michigan. Been in Michigan for about 3 years. Had some, like we were discussing weather before we went online. Had some trouble adjusting to the winters in Michigan after moving from Colorado, where there's 300 days of sunlight a year. You guys can attest to that. So I think that was maybe the beginning of my excessive drinking, where it started before it got totally out of control. I'll share some more details about that later. But yeah, thank you, Julie and Steve, for having me on here. I'm excited to have this discussion.
So I can relate to this. I'm from southwestern Ontario. So about 4 hours complete straight east of Grand Rapids, where you are right now. And I was back in that location for 2 weeks over the holidays. And I've only been here in Colorado since June. But there was 4 hours of sunshine in those 2 weeks that I was there over the Christmas holidays, and I was like, where's the fucking sun? Like you can tell the difference. You could tell the difference. I couldn't wait to hit back and just like there was the sun poked out for like 2 hours, and I just walked out, took a shirt off, and I was like, let all of the vitamin D hit my available skin as much as possible. Because here you don't, once you go outside, you just get it.
Yeah.
And you don't really understand how much the sun affects you until you take it away for that long. And you're like, damn.
You crawl into a dark hole if you can't control it. Yeah. That's the first time I've ever taken vitamin D supplements.
Yeah.
Yeah, I imagine that. I think, Julie, before I'm going to let you get into this topic introduction, it is your 3.5-year anniversary today. And that needs to be said because it's not too often you and I talk about how long we've been sober on our podcast.
That is true. Thank you. Well, and so since it's we'll acknowledge it's my 3.5 year. Thank you. It's also Steve's 4 year on Friday. So yeah, it's probably a good time to mention both of those.
Yes.
For you guys.
Yeah.
You
guys.
Thank you.
Milestones.
Yep.
Yeah.
4 years and 2 more days. It's going to be.
Do you get like reminiscent?
I do.
It's so impactful.
Yeah. I do. It's every time I hit a big milestone, either like a huge number or like 1,000 days was one of those. And every time I hit another year mark, I get reminiscent. I'm in the middle of I just started CrossFit. I'm going to shut up soon. Okay, Julie. I just started CrossFit 7 weeks ago, and I joined the CrossFit Open, which is the global challenge, and I'm getting my ass completely handed to me, but I'm not giving up. And so tomorrow is the final of the 3 workouts. Sorry, not tomorrow. Friday is the final of the 3 workouts. I didn't plan it this way. This just landed this way. And so I hit 4 years on the last workout of doing this thing that is absolutely pushing me to my limit of exhaustion, my limit of ability, and it's going to be, I imagine it's going to be a pretty emotional experience, but I'm really looking forward to it.
And then that's all. Think of good shit you can do with sober.
I think it's going to be fucking awesome. That's what I think it's going to be, Steve.
Yep.
It is.
Yeah. Good for you.
I'm excited.
So I'm happy that it's not. I'm happy it's not a race because you guys. I'd be the tortoise in this. I just hit 7 months of sobriety, and it was after many attempts. But this is the longest I've been sober since I was a teenager, I think.
Amazing.
And this is the best I've ever felt since I can remember.
That's awesome.
It's awesome.
And You know how they tell you it keeps getting better?
Right.
Life.
At 4 years, and I mean, Mike's got 2008, so, but at 4 years, they weren't wrong.
Yeah.
I don't know how,
Better.
but it just keeps getting better.
Mike said it. He answered this question for us in his intro. The more you work on your recovery, the more you find blessings just come forth in your life. I think that's exactly it. So, congratulations on those 7 months.
I drank every day for 25 years, just about. Like, I drank every day. So when people say like, "Oh, do you really need to do recovery that much?" I'm like, "Well, I drank every day." So I like to
Yeah.
I like to make recovery part of my life on a daily basis because it keeps me from being an asshole. That's really what it does.
Yeah.
Right. For sure.
Yeah. People ask me if I still get cravings or still think about it. And I'm like, yeah, of course. I mean, I drank my entire adult life. It doesn't go away just like that.
Mhm.
It takes a while. And I talk to people, and I talk to a lot of people in early recovery, and I tell them the same thing. I don't know if you guys can remember back this far, but I'm like, make it to the 90-day point. When you make it to the 90-day point, it's like, not only is it a huge fucking accomplishment and boost of motivation, but like that's when I think everything's out of your system. You're back to feeling normal. You're in a routine. You've found a process that works for you,
Yeah.
and you just continue working that process,
Yeah.
not
Absolutely.
not overdoing it.
Yeah.
Gonna lead us perfectly
Gonna
into
lead
our
us into our intro. Okay. So it is normal and encouraged when you first quit drinking to really pour yourself into recovery, educating ourselves, working on personal growth, and it's all really good stuff and it's really important. But we also put ourselves at risk of burnout. So, what has that looked like in your recovery? And also, how do you avoid getting to the point of recovery or sobriety burnout?
Who wants to go first?
Yeah, that's always the $1,000,000 question.
I don't mind going.
go for it.
Okay.
Um, yeah, so I've been thinking about this a lot the past couple days, and I've talked about it in some meetings and stuff. Kind of cheating, just seeing what other people's thoughts are and experiences on this, and and it's everybody's kind of got a different story. It feels like everybody has been to that burnout stage, in one way or another. Me personally, the way that I kind of realize makes most sense for me to explain this is, um, we talk about moderation. I truly believe that I'm an alcoholic. What makes me an alcoholic is that is my lack of moderation, my lack for being able to moderate the amount that I was drinking. I couldn't drink one cocktail, one beer, whatever. It had to be all or nothing. That made me an alcoholic, drinking in excess. I quickly found out when I got out of rehab, and they fucking pound everything into you with self-help books and go to AA, go to NA, go to Al-Anon, just go to every meeting you can, read all of this literature, go to your therapist twice a week, do all this stuff. And, you can overdo it. You have to recover in moderation. It's a double-edged sword. I think what makes me an alcoholic is that I can't drink in moderation. What made me relapse the first time after I got out of rehab, I was not recovering in moderation. I was going to every single meeting. I was going to 2 meetings a day, talking about the same shit, and, just telling everybody, "Hey, I'm an alcoholic. This is me. I can't wait to tell everybody, the mailman comes, 'Hey, mailman, guess what? I'm an alcoholic.'" Not quite to that extent, but
Oh, no, we've all been
just
there. It's like this for evangelism, right? We
yeah,
can't
it's
tell
like,
people.
and I brought this up with my wife today, and she said, "What's the topic? What are you guys gonna talk about?" And I said, "Burnout," like, overdoing your recovery. And she's like, "Oh, you mean like coming out of rehab and just telling everybody that you're an alcoholic, and like when somebody offers you a drink, like we're on the plane and the stewardess comes and offers me a glass of champagne. No, thank you, I'm an alcoholic." Like, instead of, thanks, I don't drink. Like, yeah,
Been
no,
there,
I'm an
done that.
alcoholic. If you got time, sit down. You want to hear my What's the green light? Down, sit back. Everybody on the plane, gather around. I got a story. Yeah, exactly. And that was like, I came out of rehab. I'm texting with, people I was in rehab with. And, you know, lo and behold, a week later, a couple days later, I'm back at it. I'm drinking again. And not a lapse, a full on relapse. I'm like, shit, I went right back to drinking a bottle of vodka in one day, and I'm going to do it again tomorrow. And now I don't think that recovery is possible. If I'm not trapped in a place that doesn't have alcohol, that makes it physically impossible for me to get alcohol, I don't think I can do it. And it just took finding the right recipe. I see my therapist once every 2 weeks. And it's all this stuff. It's trial and error. That's the thing, is that they don't tell you about recovery. It's not a one size fits all. It's, you know, I've got buddies that do, 7 days a week AA meetings. They go to the same meeting every day, and that's what works for them, and they've been sober for years. I can't do that.
Yeah.
That just doesn't work for me. I go to my 2 meetings a week, sometimes 3, and, I see my therapist, I take my meds, I focus on my mental health, is huge. That was one of the things that I lost sight of, was my mental health. And if I'm not taking care of, if I'm not looking out for number 1, then the self-medicating is gonna start.
Wheels start coming off either, again, just in a different way, right?
Yeah, so, physical fitness, like you were talking about, Steve, my wife's a Pilates instructor. I fully take advantage of that. I go to Pilates, a couple times a week. I go to the gym. I meet with my sponsor. He's been, a tremendous influence and help to me. Met with him today, just, and it's all these things. And it's not necessarily like I have to do these things on this certain day. It's just, I know when I need to do them. I know what I need to take care of. It's like life. I got to pay the electric bill. I got to water the lawn. I got to, pick up the dry cleaning. I got to go to work. It's all these things. It's just new responsibilities that we're adding to our daily life. And it's actually, once you get the hang of it, it's surprisingly easy to manage all of it, because you've just discarded all the bullshit that you were dealing with before, like waking up at 6 in the morning and the first thought that comes into your head is drinking.
Mhm.
And you're focusing on it, hyper focusing on it all day long. And you're, you're losing motivation at work. You're losing focus. You're so hyper focused on this one thing that, you get rid of all that shit, and, you have a clear mind. You can actually focus more on your own well-being.
Yeah, definitely.
Yep, for sure.
Yeah.
Well
So,
said.
I talked to so many people, just to a point that you made, Colin. I talked to so many people who were like, they'll be maybe 90 days sober, 6 months sober, something, and they're like, "I'm so freaking tired of thinking about not drinking and thinking about alcohol and thinking about recovery and reading all the books all the time. Like, I just wanna live my life. I'm sick of it." And to me, that's burnout, right? When
Yeah.
you just want your life back. You wanna feel a little bit normal. Um, and I think it's really important to recognize, you said this about, like, it's just like some of the other responsibilities. It's like paying your electric bill. We don't have to pour 12 hours of thought into staying sober when we get to a certain point. But it's like managing, say, if you have diabetes, you don't have to think about the fact that you're diabetic all day long, every single day. But you do need to take some time every day to make sure that you're maintaining your well-being, you're maintaining your health, you're cooking healthy meals, you're taking the medication you need, whatever those things are. Like, you just do those things. It doesn't mean you have to focus on it every single hour hour of the day. And I think in the very beginning, you kind of do. Like I had to think about sobriety a lot in the first 3 to 6 months. But then I think it's okay to just recognize you can't bail. You can't be like, all right, I'm done. I don't want to think about it anymore. You still have to create like a maintenance routine that no matter what you do, you at least stick with your basic maintenance.
Yeah, I think keeping it, kind of last thought real quick on that, just, keeping it enjoyable. I enjoy going to the AA meetings that I go to and, being a part of that fellowship and seeing those people in those groups. You know, I I enjoy part of what keeps me sober too is, not a lot of people do this, but I've turned a lot of people onto it. I was so bad with relapses that it finally came down to, my wife gave me an ultimatum. And, many of us have been in this position, but it's like you got to decide what you want to do with your life
Mhm.
and whether or not I'm going to be in it. That's your decision. And, so I'm like, how do I make sure that I do not let this happen again? So I said, look, I'm buying a breathalyzer every night before I go to bed. I'm going to blow in this breathalyzer. I'm going to show you if I'm traveling, FaceTime you. I'm blowing in the breathalyzer. I'll show you the zeros in the camera. And I've done that every night for the past 7 months. And it's, you know, this is training wheels shit for sobriety.
Accountability breeds trust. Accountability breeds
Like,
trust.
yeah, it's like having a cheat sheet in your pocket, but it keeps me honest, with her. And it also, we're rebuilding trust, like you said, Steve, and it keeps me honest with myself. There's been times where I'm like, I'm, I could probably drink, get away with it. And I'm like, no, I couldn't because I'm going to blow on that breathalyzer tonight and it needs to say zeros, and that was months ago. And, now it's finally to that point of I'm not, I could drink. I'm not going to because I don't want to. It took,
Yeah.
it seems like it's taken so long just to get, half a year down the road. And, I don't want to throw that away.
Definitely.
It starts becoming more valuable. I was just thinking
You
here, I mean,
been in the game.
yeah, you do. Once you get into it a little bit farther and you start putting some of the work in, you start valuing the work that you've done, and you just don't, and you feel like you throw it all out. You throw out the baby with the bathwater, and all it takes is one drink to do it. The one thing I was hearing, and I mean, I did this too. As soon as you get into recovery and you dive in, it's like going to an all-you-can-eat Chinese buffet, right? Like it's a smorgasbord. You just eat and eat and eat and eat and eat, and eventually you just feel like you can't move no more, and you're wondering why. Because I'm doing all of the things that are good for me. I know they are. They tell me they're good for me, but I can't move because I'm fucking full. Like I can't eat this shit no more.
Yeah.
So it kind of feels that way. I'm gonna hand this off to Mike or Amber now and see what their thoughts are.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you guys hear me? It sounds weird right now.
Yeah, we're
Good.
Yep.
All right, good. It's not uncommon, right, to think about drinking early on. I mean, I like to say all the time, like, birds fly, fish swim, and I drink. Like that's kind of how it is for an alcoholic. Like my go-to is to drink. Like, and why? Because I was very uncomfortable inside long before I ever picked up a drink. Like I had all of the isms of alcoholism before I ever picked up. Once I picked up, the first time that I got drunk with the intent of getting drunk, I was 9 years old. I was 11 years old when I blacked out, and I didn't get sober until I was 33. So I drank alcoholically and abused for like 25 years, So like of course, my solution to anything that was going on in my life was alcohol and drugs, right? So like you take it's really just fixing an internal condition with an external source. That's all it is. Like I have an internal discomfort, my mind starts racing, which causes me to like my thoughts create my feelings, and then my feelings are going to create the action, are going to produce the actions that I take. So my racing thoughts make me feel anxious, restless, irritable, frustrated, just insane. Like I just don't know what to do with it. So what's going to fix that for me? Well, I know that the second that I put a drink to my lips or the second I pop something into my mouth, it all goes away and everything just feels great. So
The
it,
easiest way.
then that feeling goes away. So like now I start feeling anxious and so I need to fix it again. So I'm playing around in this loop of addiction. Now I'm on the merry-go-round. So then when I get off, like for me, it was always like, man, Mike's got a really good life. I don't know why he just doesn't stop drinking, because what I suffer from is that, you know, like kind of like Colin was, alluding to, like I got sober I got sober and stayed sober through a 12-step program. And I firmly believe that the process works because there's a whole bunch of principles that are wrapped up in that process. So like it kind of says like I'm restless, irritable, and discontent. And I would say that those words are probably being very kind because I was way more than discontent. I was, I was discontented not just to myself, but at everybody. Like
Here's the thing with that with that one, because I have a little thing with that one. I might as well have a little discussion. Restless, irritable, and discontent are the reactions to your emotions. The emotion that you feel
fear. It's fear.
before that is what makes you either restless, irritable, and discontent, right? So that is restless, irritable, and discontent is the exterior thing that I show based on the interior thing that I feel.
Yeah. So what's that emotion?
Right. Well, it could be anything. It could be anything. It could be fear. It could be frustration. It's hurt.
Trauma. I always say that the gateway is trauma. What is it?
So you've been sober since 2008, right?
Yep.
So when did you start burning out on recovery?
Okay, so I was actually really, really, really connected to recovery for like the first 5 years. Very active, very connected, helping other alcoholics. And then life got so good. Everything I lost, I got back tenfold. Like life was so good that, basically my connection to the recovery community, to the people that, that I, and to a program that like really changed my life became very, very distant. It was going from like 4 or 5 meetings a week to 1 meeting a week to one every couple weeks to one a month to quarterly is what I called them. It got to the point where if I passed another person that I knew in recovery in the supermarket and said, "Hello, everything is great," that was enough for me. I wasn't participating in my recovery at all because I was too busy with life. That's how I looked at it. Like I chased financial success like a drug. And I was so busy with the amount of things that I had going on that I was just totally disconnected from it. So like what I said is that when I'm not making recovery a part of my life, guess what happened over the course of the next 5 years? Over the course of the next 5 years, I was the same asshole that I was when I was drinking. All of those same mannerisms, character defects, all of that stuff came glaring to the surface because I was doing nothing about my own mental well-being and I was doing nothing about my own personal development. The only thing I did was I just, like anything else, my addiction is more. That's it. My addiction is
What I'm hearing you say here is you burnt out on the recovery part and then you swapped it out.
no, I didn't burn out on the recovery part. I just faded away from it. And then what I found when my life went completely sideways again at 10 years sober, like
Mhm.
everything in my life went sideways. I lost a marriage of 20 years. I mean, it was like businesses that I had going, like everything just started to fall away because I was so engulfed in it. I didn't drink. And I needed to like what I did when my life was completely sideways is I got reconnected to the sober community. And in doing so, it's engaging in that process again and taking actionable steps to better my life that I started to feel better again. And then the more I engage in the process, the better that I feel. So for me, I don't look at recovery as something that I have to do. It's just a part of my life. And it's kind of like it's kind of like drinking my coffee in the morning or drinking water or breathing fucking air. Like for me, making recovery a part of my life it is key. That is really what it boils down to. I can learn everything, but if I don't apply the knowledge that I have through action, nothing happens.
So
That's when you get burnt out.
I'm gonna be the odd one here for a minute. I've never touched a 12-step program. I've never been to a meeting. So my recovery looks a lot different. For me, like in the beginning, it was all about recovery community, talking to the sober friends that I had made, journaling about each day and sobriety. And, I everything was focused on the sobriety piece of it. And then you kind of get sick of talking about it. Like I'm so much more than sobriety, right? That there's so much more to who I am. And I understand the people who are like, I just don't want to think about staying sober all the time. I don't want to think about alcohol all the time. For me, when I started getting to that point, it turned into this isn't really just about sobriety anymore. This is about healing. This is about personal growth. This is about finding myself and who I am and what I am passionate about and what I value. And it's about looking at my life and being like, what's working, what's not, and fixing relationships that needed some serious like work. And so it shifted away from focusing on alcohol, focusing on not drinking, talking about sobriety and all of that to just personal growth. And I mean, it all
But
ties
that's
in.
essentially that is what the 12-step process is about. It's like
Sure, yeah,
it's
and I
re-
understand. They're similar. Like we're all doing the recovery thing, right? We're doing it in our own ways. But for me, I think it's there's a lot to be said. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, good.
I was just gonna say there's a lot to be said for at some point it's okay to shift towards personal growth. You don't
Yeah.
have to keep thinking about the sober piece. You don't have to keep thinking about the alcohol thing. You just need to wake up every day and set some small intention for how you're going to move your life forward this day. And it doesn't have to be something massive. It doesn't have to be big and dramatic. And your recovery maintenance program doesn't have to take 8 hours of the day. Like for in the beginning, for some people, it's necessary for it to take a lot of your effort. It's okay to shift it to where it's just a little bit of time each day that you're just maintaining the momentum of forward progress in your life in whatever direction that feels like it needs to be. But we just can't completely abandon it. So, Mike, what you're talking about, and I've seen that so many times where eventually you just start living life and the meetings or whatever the program is that you're focusing on, it kind of starts to slip and fall away. And that's where we get into trouble. It's okay if you feel burned out to move slower, to slow down, to do less. It's just a
Mhm.
matter of maintaining a little bit of momentum most days of
but you still like
life.
and what you're saying is 100% true. It's not just about the sobriety, right? It's about if I'm not engaged in that process, I need to be cognizant of like how am I growing as a person?
Right,
Am I just a little bit better today than I was yesterday?
right, right.
Amber.
I think
Hamburger, what you got there?
Oh, I totally burnt out on recovery. Like early, I was a human sponge. We all are, right? I read all the things, I did the things like I'm sort of the intermediary. Like I began my recovery going to meetings. And I knew a lot of the people there were in like the community. I worked in the restaurant industry. So like and so I started there. Like I have a tattoo I got when I was 6 months sober. That is basically like a tree of life coming out of a chip, out of a recovery chip. Like I started there and understood the process and then started to find other things that kind of just fit my personality and just who I am more, right? I like to say like recovery is a la carte. I just go and I'm like, oh, that looks good. I'll try that. That looks good. I don't really like that. Doesn't work for me. Like I love it because I can just literally have whatever I want on the buffet, right? But recovery, I remember when people would say, like, do you remember when people would say, like, it's like being born again? And I'd be like, that's fucking stupid. Why, like, nobody's born again. Like, we're already living. And I remember, like, calling my friend and being like, I totally understand this. But with the added part of, like, it literally is like being born again into the world, right? You're learning everything over. Your perception on life is completely different. You react to colors differently. You see the sky, you see a bird, you're like, "Oh my, like I never noticed that tree there before." Like everything literally is brand new. While you're also already an adult human being who's living a life. Like you have a job, you have responsibilities, you have bills, you have to so, like, the unlearning and learning at the same time was just totally there were moments where I was like, "I don't know if I can do this." This is so much the duality of having to undo, rewire, and relearn all simultaneously is exhausting and overwhelming at first. Um, but, like, for me, a lot of it was I also didn't understand, which was where my drinking a lot of my drinking came from, like, I didn't know how to just be, like, how to just like, that quote that is my absolute favorite, that we're, like, human beings, not human doings. Like, I don't always have to be doing something. It is okay to literally do nothing. I'm not lazy. I'm literally I'm taking time and taking the time that my body and my brain need to just absorb everything it's already learned, and just be, and that was a major game changer for me and a shift where I was like, I don't always have to be. I was always on the go, right? I was never not doing something. I was drinking till 4 o'clock in the morning and taking a nap and getting up for work at 5. Like I mean, how? I don't know, right? We're all like superhuman in this ability to literally be awake for 23 hours a day. I don't, it's like, I get the science now, but, right? So I always had to be doing stuff. So learning how to just stop to
Mhm.
doing, and it's okay. Like I wash my face, right? But I don't spend 7 hours a day washing my face, right? I'm taking care of my skin, but I'm not doing it for 7 hours. My skin would fall off if I did that. It's kind of like that in recovery. Like I
Moderation.
time. Yeah, that moderation was actually perfect. I wrote it down in notes and I was like, "Oh my gosh, recovery and moderation, it's perfect." Right? I can
Mhm.
take some time and like if there's something a particular aspect I'm curious about my recovery or about my alcoholism or about anything, my mental health, let me learn a little something about that, kind of dive into it for a little bit, but then pull myself back out and get back out into living, into life and enjoying literally the second chance at living a life I didn't allow myself to live before. So,
Mm.
yeah, the burnout was real until I really realized that piece that it's okay to just be and you can only shove so much knowledge. I mean, you can only cram so hard for a midterm. You're gonna absorb everything you're gonna absorb from what you've done all semester, so you can attest to that, right? Like, there's only so much information you can fit in there before it's like you're just pouring water in the cup and it's just pouring right back out. So,
Yeah.
taking the
So
time to slow down.
It's it's
Yeah.
cyclical,
Yeah.
right? And
yeah,
what we need, I think that's something that we have to recognize too, is that what we need goes in cycles. It goes in waves, it goes in patterns. And so, what works right now, it's okay if that doesn't work forever. So, when it feels like it's not working, that means you need to stop and you need to recalibrate and you need to readjust, turn a different direction, whatever that is. Um, and take time, like Amber said, to breathe. Just take some deep breaths and let it all
Abs-
play out and absorb. And I think this cycle is good.
I think in the early stages especially, it's so easy to not even lose sight of that, but to understand that. I don't feel like, you know, talking to other people in recovery and talking to, therapists in rehab who are also in recovery, um, the topic of burnout never came up. It was go to every meeting, go to, do this, 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 keep moving. The second you sit still, the second you lay down and start watching a TV show, whatever, that's where it's going to happen. That's where you're going to relapse. Um, and just like kind of, Amber touched on this a little bit, just the juggling act in the beginning I think is what led me to, to relapse a few times. I mean, it was, I'm trying to figure out how to do life again, right? We're reborn. And how do I figure out life as a 35-year-old adult in a way that I've never experienced it before? So here I'm, you know, how do I combat depression, anxiety, a drinking problem, and a benzo problem all at the same time? It's like, what came, and then what came first, the chicken or the egg? Where did, was I depressed and I started drinking? Was I drinking, and that made me depressed? So I was taking Xanax. Was it, you know, what order did it come in? What order do I need to unfold this and, to figure out how to uh, take control of it? That's a very overwhelming feeling. And it's taken a lot of trial and error to get to this point.
I think we think we're supposed to get it right the first time.
Yeah.
And I mean, you don't have to get it right the first time. So what happened here with me was it's like eating something that was really, really good, right? It was good for me too, because I finally found a space where I could talk. I finally found a space where I felt seen, heard, and understood. And so when I started with all of that, there's kind of this, I had this little rush of, fuck yeah, like there is something here finally that I've met people like me. I'm not alone no more. So I had this really good feeling. Recovery became my identity. It became part of who I was. Sorry, Collin, you mentioned this earlier. I'm an alcoholic. That was me. I did that shit. And at some point, just past a year, like I took connection seriously, where I would talk to 60 people in a day that were in recovery. Like I took it to the nth degree. You talked about moderation. I was afraid that if I let certain pieces of my recovery go, what would I have left? And so I burnt out because if I didn't do the things that I was supposed to do that I knew were good for me, I did them in excess, then I was gonna, and I was in the program too at the beginning, and I moved away from it because then I was gonna fall down this deep dark hole, and I was never gonna climb my way back out of it. I left the program because I didn't believe in the hole that I was gonna fall in.
Mhm.
There's another way to do this. I'm at the point now where I still need to manage my own expectations, and I still need to make sure that I care for myself. The lessons that I learned in recovery, I call myself a recovered alcoholic now. That is literally my tag name on Instagram, the recovered alcoholic. That's my handle. It used to be the open alcoholic. And the reason why I still maintain alcoholic is because you know exactly what my problem was. Other than that, I 100% believe that you can reach the state where you can put an ED at the end of recover.
You 100% recover
Yeah.
from alcoholism.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alcohol isn't a problem in my life anymore.
Nope.
But along the way, I have burnt out. First, it was recovery because I had to make it. I felt like I had to make it a piece of me to understand how important it actually was.
Yeah.
And
Well, and it's
then
like you recover, but you're more in remission, right?
yeah, it's and it's okay.
You're not healed. It could come back at any time, but you're through the shit.
I'm through the shit. I'm on the other side. What lessons have I learned through my burning out, doing things to
Yeah.
excess, where I know now to a pretty good extent, although accountability, these are things that people need in their life anyway. Accountability It's a great thing to have. A group of friends that understand you. It's a great thing to have. Personal growth. It's a great thing to have. Taking care of my mental health. It's a great thing to have. If I look outside of recovery for a minute and I look at people who are just healthy, emotional people, those are all the things that they have. Those are all of the things that they do. They do the exact same thing. They don't call themselves recovered. They don't call themselves anything. They just know that these are the things that I need to do to take care of myself. This is how I think you become recovered, as opposed to staying in recovery. To me, staying in recovery is I have to maintain the fear of what a drink is going to do with me. I already know that answer, right?
Yeah.
But the burnout to me was when I made it my identity. And I made it so much a piece of me that letting go of any of it was fucking scary. Every piece of that I had to let go, I got to discover a new part of me. Because these were choices that I got to make to better myself on the journey forward. And I've burnt out, like I said, I've burnt out many of times. The first major one was on recovery, because I spent my first year swallowing every little bit of it I possibly could, getting involved in every little bit of it I possibly could.
But in essence, isn't that just because we're focused on one aspect of our life? Like, we're always recovering in life. We should always, like, our only purpose, as like the only thing that we're supposed to do on a regular basis to maintain happiness, is grow. We should always be growing and expanding. If you're not like, you're either growing or you're dying. There's one of the two things.
That's
like
the stagnation, right? You're
correct.
just and I mean,
I think to your point, Steve and Mike, I mean, I think everybody's kind of touched on this, and Julie, you touched on this earlier. The point for me when I stopped going to, when I stopped counting meetings, and it was, my end goal was, of course, to stay sober. My short-term goal was to see how many meetings I could go to, because that was going to keep me sober. It wasn't until the point where I realized I'm Collin, I'm an alcoholic, but I'm also a good husband. I'm a great brother, a great friend, awesome uncle, all these things. It took my wife kind of mentioning that to me, like, hey, you're also these things too. Don't lose sight of that.
Aren't you better at those?
Kind of just, yeah, exactly. And it's like, wait, I am these things. And now that I'm sober, I have the opportunity to show everybody how good I can be at these things. I can be a kick-ass husband. That shit you can't get burnt out on.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with that.
you said a couple of things. I'm going to wrap this up now. You said a couple of things there, Colin, right near the end, that sums some things up pretty good. And that was like, that's not who I am. I think we all made recovery a part of who we were, to a point where we took our over moderation in drinking and used that as a part of our recovery. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think you run into the burnout because you start understanding it's not a necessary part of your life anymore. And I need to change some things. And so I think we all shared bits and pieces of what that all looked like to us. So I want to say thank you, Collin. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Amber, for stepping in. Appreciate you. Really appreciate your guys' time and your thoughts and experience tonight. Thank you.
Likewise.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve and Julie.
Thanks to our guests and to our listeners. We wouldn't be here without you all. Be sure to leave us a rating and a review on Apple or Spotify. It would mean the world to us. And tune in next week. We'll be talking about dealing with depression without alcohol. And we'll see you then.